Hi there, and we are back to talking about Friday the 13th again. We've gone through the mother, we've gone through the the sack hit Jason, but it's time to start talking about the ones that most people know when it comes to Friday the 13th. It's time to get into that era, the hockey mask era, or the era when Jason didn't just become a character that we heard about, and he became an icon. All right. So, are you guys ready? We're talking today about Friday the 13th, part three and four. I'm joined here by my dad, Glenn, and I'm joined here by Malcolm, who is totally ready to get all super funky and disco with this next film. Because we are going to start talking about one, and this one should be particularly big for my dad, because my dad's a massive 3D person. So, we are going to be talking about Friday the 13th 3D. Now, this is one that I think both me and you, Dad, originally saw in theater. Not at the same time, but I think probably at the same theater too. To be honest with you, you saw this in 3D, right? Back when it came out. Yeah,
Yeah.
same here. Um, and for those that don't know, this era of 3D, like kind of the really in-your-face 3D, was really, really good. The 3D format that was being used at the time was really incredible. So it really stood out. And so, with that, all that being said, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to you start, Dad, and talk about this because I know you are a massive 3D collector. You have the 3D edition of this, like me, um, and I want to know your thoughts on not just this film, but the 3D aspect of it, and what your thoughts are on like basically the film itself, the characters, Jason, all that type of stuff, and the
Okay. Well, characters aside, you have to see this in 3D. If you don't see it in 3D, you're not going to appreciate it. You're not going to have the same review on it. It's just not going to work. It was made for 3D. All you'll do is see people coming like this on the screen. That's all you'll see. In 3D, it's in your living room. This is what you call good 3D. There's a scene where it's a rat on a stick. The rat goes out on a stick. You look at that on 2D, it's a rat on a stick. When you look at it in 3D, you can take the rat off the stick.
it
That's
is.
how good it is. And there's a scene with an eyeball. Don't It's nothing if you see it in 2D. In 3D, the eyeball is right in your face. So it has to be seen in 3D. That's the first thing right there. I noticed one thing about 3D too. If you watch it as much as I do, forget the sticking stuff in and out of 3D, but just watch the scenery, like watch the ground and watch the grass and bushes and that, and you're going to see a big similarity between 3D and 4K. Watch it sometime. You're going to see it. The movie itself is fun. I enjoyed it. It's crazy. Jason looks really weird, but you know, but overall, compared to probably what I'm going to say about the next one, which I think my views have changed a little. Uh, this one you walk away from being entertained. You're not going to go out of here feeling sad, depressed, disturbed. This is just a fun movie. You got to take it for it. And some of the kills are okay. The eye popping out the screen was fun. The girl getting shot in the eye was fun. The acting was basically what the acting is in most of the Jason movies. Teeny boppers go to the go to their cabin, all sexed up, and they get killed.
Now,
What can you do?
I'm going to ask you something different than I did last time, Dad. And because I'm mixing this one up a bit because of what it is, I want you to give me a rating for this one based on the film, and a rating for this one based on the film with 3D. If I want to see if the rating matches up.
Oh no, can't match up. You haven't seen 3D. It's the rating in 3D. You'd give it almost a 4 for sure. You got the plot is what it is. Without the rating, a 3 would be the most you could ever give it. But it needs 3D. It's just a fun movie. I mean, everything's sticking out. They're doing it deliberately. You know that.
Oh yeah.
Any chance they got to stick something in your face, they're going to stick it out there, right? That's
let's look at this yo-yo.
And, yeah, it's
that's why you buy those sexy movies in 3D.
But overall, yeah, I'd give it a 4 with 3D and maybe a 2.5 to 3 without it. But I enjoy. Actually, I see it in 3D, so it's different for me than some guys. I watched this one a lot more than the one coming up because I was entertained instead of being depressed. So I say give it a 4 with 3D, 2.5 to 3 without it.
All right, there we go. Now I'm going to let Malcolm take over for a second and start talking because I just got to grab something. I'll be right back. I'll be to hear you. Okay. So if you say anything, oh no. So Malcolm, what are your thoughts on Friday 13 3D?
I really like the gang members. I think the gang's hilarious, especially the guy who gets like his arm off. All right, to me that's hilarious. I love Jason spends a lot of his time in the barn, just kind of doing weird stuff like, is he trying to become a farmer? So we got Michael Myers in the last film, so we're basically being a cook and sleeping under his house. And we've got Jason Voorhees, who lives in a barn and likes to do farming work. And I feel they should have called his nickname Smallville because the way he keeps doing it. Anyway, so you got that. And then, Jason has the best look in this movie. That smile, to this day, that smile makes this film great. Where he's kind of like, right? That makes the film an 8 out of 5 for me, just for that moment, right? 8 out of 5, best rated movie in the whole franchise. Now, the kills are great. I love the joke where they think, he's joking the guy after he did the joke earlier in the film. That always makes me laugh. I love that the comic that came out, I'm going to do an hour here, the comic that came out actually had it from this film, but had a homosexual love interest in it instead.
I didn't realize.
So you didn't realize? Have you not still read that comic?
No, actually, I haven't read that comic.
No. It was classified as a Friday the 13th comic. It wasn't based on this movie, technically, but there's a lot of scenes that are like this movie. So that was interesting. I also like the fact that the main lead woman, you could tell from her screaming, but she actually loved Jason, but for some reason, she had to stay away from him because she was like kryptonite. And he was, amazing. I honestly think it should have ended with them two getting married, right? Her giving, him touching her touching his face, right? Him taking her back to meet mum, right? And then you could have had a love scene between her, the head, and him. Because I think so I think that'd been great. The setting's great. The characters are all pretty good. I like how they stand out a little bit more than normal. Like I said, I like the gang member because the gang member's a little bit more, of the time. You got to love that one who gets his arm chopped off and still fights.
Yeah,
you got to love the bit where Jason gets it in the mask, and yeah, he's like, oh,
Does the girl, the gang member, the guy, doesn't it not kind of remind you like in Demons? Remember the Demons?
Yeah, it was the one who's always like, we'll go get over and all that stuff. Yeah. The other thing that I've noticed about this movie was this. So Jason Voorhees, right? He's going around, he gets hit, he gets hurt, all this. But have you realised something about Jason Voorhees in this movie? All he wants is love. All he wants is passion. That's why Glenn said, you're not going to come out depressed, because you see a happy-go-lucky Jason who just wants to be friends with everyone. Yeah, they accidentally get killed, like when Edward Scissorhands kills Vincent Price in Edward Scissorhands. He does it by accident. That's what Jason's doing there, right? He's joyful, he's happy, he's dancing, he's having the time of his life, and that's what you want to say. Best Friday the 13th in the series, 8 out of 5. And if I could meet that Jason, I could take him out for a beer, I would, because he's incredible.
So what about, have you
Jason in
seen
the
it
series.
3D, like Malcolm? So
I
can you
have
get
seen
3D
it. Oh, well, just like Malcolm said, I enjoyed watching it in 3D when it first came out. Well, not when it first came out, but I watched it, years later in 3D. I do like the 3D on it. I love the head bit. I love that. It's incredible. And I love the harpoon bit, where it's on the thing. I love that. I also love all the fact that there should have been a scene. Here we go again with Megal kind of thing. There should be a scene where he undoes his pants. And he goes, ooh, and hit the girl from the, he's chasing. And it could have shot out and hit the boat, knocked her over, and we would have had the end of the movie.
See,
The other thing I want to say, right, is when it shows that flashback of him chasing her and her running off, like when he originally met her, right, it reminds me of my love life, right, when I was younger. So I went, hey, and they'd run off, and, so I kind of relate to Jason in this movie, because when I was his age, I had that goofy smile and that laugh, and I'm sure when Glenn was that age, he had that as well, So we can understand his character arc here. It's a misunderstood, kind, caring mother's boy who probably plays with that head a bit too much. He's probably never been with a woman, so we don't know what he does with it. But, yeah, 8 out of 5.
all right. For me on part 3, there's a few things to break down with this one. Steve Miner's come back after directing part 2. 3D is the big thing at the time, so he does it. It makes it a lot harder to film. Don't focus as much on the script as to do on the technical aspects of the film. That being said, I've often talked about my kids with this one, especially my oldest, and she often considers this one to have the most likable cast out of any of the films, because the guys and girls in this movie are extremely likable. We have the first and until we'll get to Jason Goes to Hell, sort of, and even then it's not really pregnant person in the film. This is not Crystal Lake. This is Higgins Haven, which is close to but not at Crystal Lake. We have the most bland male lead. Unfortunately, with this, he is a very bland character. Like John Fury seems like an action hero compared to the to the good old boy in this one right here. Now, what we do have is Dana Kimmel. Dana Kimmel, of course, she did Sweet 16, which is another classic slasher film, really underrated, by the way. She's really good in this. Dana Kimmel is a good Christian girl, so unfortunately, that meant nude scenes that she was supposed to have were non-existent. She refused to do them. One of the great things for me in this one is Gloria Charles, who plays Fox. She's one of the gang members. I thought she was sexy as hell. Loved that character. I was a big fan of Richard Brooker's take on Jason. He has a good, solid look. He's a big guy. He's not to the point where it's not Michael Myers, Rob Zombie, ridiculous era of big. But he has a good kind of he's a sense, when you think of being a force of nature, he moves like a force of nature, but he can run. He doesn't just go. He doesn't stalk slowly or anything like that. He can go fast.
It's because he's happy. He's happy and he just wants to enjoy life.
Well, actually, that's what I'm going to get into next. And then this is by far, probably, unfortunately, one of the best actors that played Jason. But maybe it's because it was so early in the franchise. But it's also probably the most mischaracterized version of Jason. The sequence in the flashback with Jason potentially maybe assaulting her doesn't ring true for the character before, and it doesn't ring true for, for the character.
It's true, actually. Now you say that, that's actually very true. I'm laughing because I'm thinking, when you think of him in the bag, the potato bag in number 2, and then you think him after, he's like never this goofy, is he, in the others? So I was kind of laughing about it.
It's so different. I mean, like, but he does the job that he's given. The makeup, I mean, anybody that's from the 80s or has seen the Goonies, your makeup is ruined because it's pretty much the sloth, makeup from the Goonies.
It's nothing like the sloth.
It totally does. For me, it's like
nothing like it.
Every time I watch part 3, I see the Goonies. I'm not even joking. And this is the one that I didn't like as much. Now we go from like a very different look. It's almost like it's a completely different character because we've seen like a kind of a misshapen head and there's hair like there. Now this, you have to remember, guys, this is the same night. They literally passed the crime scene at the beginning of the film.
Yeah, true.
But apparently what Jason has done in between is I guess he buffed up because he wasn't this buff in the last movie, shaved his head, like had a completely different look.
All that dancing.
When I was young, I actually wrote a script, like a story, short story, where like that explained that these were 2 different characters. Like that was my headcanon as a kid, right? But because I said, this is, she had twins and she had like one looked different than the other. Anyway, when I was a kid, that's what you do. You write stuff. But I loved this film overall. I don't think that Jason wouldn't have killed a pregnant girl. He does in this one. Jason stays away from like the whole kid aspect of it.
What makes you think he won't kill a pregnant woman?
Because he doesn't kill. Because what we see with Jason is he tends to stay away, like Mother. Because that's the thing. This is his whole thing. Is he watched his mom get beheaded? He's like like kind of stunted from youth. No, he's moved over. Like he's like, in my mind anyway, he's not really grown up. He's the mama's boy. He's literally the mama's boy. But I don't see him like killing kids. I don't see him killing moms. So that took me out of it a little bit right there. Now, that being said, some of the best death sequences in the films are in this movie right here. I love the walking on the hand scene. What a brutal scene that was. My cat's got into a little fight there. Hear that, guys? And basically so we get the scene. He's walking on his hands. They do like kind of a I guess kind of glass, kind of translucent thing so we get to see him kind of go down through, kind of cleave in half, which is really good, really well done sequence, by the way. The 3D in this is incredible. Some of the best 3D that I've ever seen in and out of the theater. The initial 3D on DVD wasn't the greatest. The 3D on the new Blu-ray that came out with the Friday 13th is insanely good. It was amazingly done.
So luckily, I remembered the 3D because I had to watch a online version, Glenn. So I remember the 3D because it really stands out. When you're watching it. When I watched it before. What's that?
Like I would say for ratings for this one right here, for the 3D version of this film, I will definitely give it a 4. For the regular version of it, I did like the cast. The only thing that bothered me was some of the ways that they wrote Jason. But again, I'm going to take that too. It's still early on. They really haven't figured out the character. So I will give it a 3.5. And I will do that because I think the cast overall is really good. I do think it's really odd, the kind of like the Cheech and Chong stoner couple that just don't fit in with the rest of the people that are there.
Yeah,
like,
is
why
weird.
are these 2 people with the rest of these people? It didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Like aside from doing like a 3D joint, and they weren't bad. The actors were good in this one. I will say overall, we still got a fairly decent quality of actors for like a franchise and a genre that's often gets belabored by like we got lesser actors and stuff like that. As we're going through here, we're going to actually see that there's some pretty big actors and going fairly on point when it comes to this. Dana Kimmel is not a bad actress. She does a great job in this movie. I think overall we got a really good cast, a solid cast in this one. We'll get into the cast in the next one. Actually, we'll get into that right now because I think in a way we get a better cast in the.
I didn't rate the 3D, did I? I rate the 3D 5 out of 5. Because I didn't rate the 3D, I just rated the movie, didn't I? So I'll just quickly put that in there.
For some reason, I'm going to apologize because there's supposed to be the fourth one popping up on the screen, but it's not. So we're going to go in there and just imagine that the fourth one is there. Because there we go. Jason, the Final Friday, which is what we're going to be talking about. So we all know what the poster looks like.
Sure. I just want to say to everybody quickly, I'm smiling and laughing because number 3 always gets me laughing no matter how much I think about it. So I'll calm down in a bit. It's just the character and that just makes me laugh. So yeah, Friday the 13th, the final chapter. It's
one that I have a lot to say. We're getting.
Why don't you go first? You go first then.
Well, I'm just to, like as always, I'll open up with a little bit of history and then we'll go into it. So we get Joseph Zito, who had previously done The Prowler, much lauded slasher film, doing this one right here. We get a lot of, hey, let's play the hits for this type of film. I often compare this film, Friday the 13th, to basically be the Friday the 13th equivalent of what Deep Red is for the earlier Argento films, and that it's getting all those pieces. We get a cast overall of some pretty amazing actors and some surprising ones, including some that really stand out to me, and probably not the ones that a lot of people are going to actually mention.
Yeah.
But there's a very nice stylistic change here. We get a new Jason in this one here. We got Teddy White playing Jason, and he did a lot of stunt work. He's kind of like he's a guy you can see doing like cowboy roles. If you ever like heard him talking, I'm sure you guys have, because you guys have the documentary. But we get the first appearance of Tommy Jarvis, and Tommy.
Corey Feldman.
Corey Feldman, which I'm going to guess the name Tommy was probably a homage to Tom Savini, who comes back for this film to do special effects for the first time.
And you can tell it's his work.
And he, because this was meant to be the final chapter, Tom Savini comes to this film with his A game. And man, is it his A game. This is Dawn of the Dead era, Tom Savini, when he was really on point. And with that being said, Malcolm, you go first in your thoughts on part 4, because this is when I got a lot of things to say.
Well, I'm not going to say too much about it because I feel like this is probably one of the most well-known ones, because it's got Corey Feldman in, it's got Crispin Glover in it doing this incredible dance that everybody loves. If you want to see me mimic it live, give us a super chat and put on it, Mal, do Crispin Glover dance, and I will. So, what can we say about this? Corey Feldman spends a lot of the time looking out his window at all the hot girls across the thing, jumping up and down on his bed, right? Which I always loved, because I always thought that was the most realistic scene in the movie, right? You got his mother, I believe, who jumps out of a window. Or is his sister?
Sister,
I thought so. The sister jumps out the window. She survives. It's funny when you see this stuff, because you know in reality they won't survive because she would have gone head first. But anyway, sorry. The ending is really good with the machete. And I will say this, Jason Voorhees in this is a lot more aggressive. He's faster. He smashes through doors. He just doesn't care. He just wants to get the job done. But what's very clever in this is the thing that supposedly beats him is Corey Feldman's character, Tommy, showing his head and him thinking it's a young him. And I don't want to sound horrible here, but if you've seen Jason Voorhees, Corey Feldman does look identical to how he looked, especially in the third one, right? Yeah. Because Corey Feldman's one weird kind of looking kid. But I will say, I think this film is a decent one. I think it's one of the better ones in the franchise from the character standpoint. The people we've got in it, the kills are good. Like the kill with is it the wine opener kill in this one? Where he
Yes.
gets it in the head. Yeah,
Like, where's the
I like that.
corkscrew?
Yeah, the corkscrew one. I love that kill. And I think that when you look at Jason in this, because he's wearing the mask properly in this one, like completely, he hasn't got the same characteristics that make him as scary in my view, other than that he's just a psychotic guy who wants to kill people, and it keeps him human for this one. Now, after this, obviously, you know, you'd kind of feel a little bit down by it, because, you know, it kind of goes out of the realm of what you feel to something completely different. And that's the problem, in my view. But this, at the minute, is probably one of the better ones. I wish it had been the final chapter, because I feel like when a film says final chapter, it never is, right? But especially in horror. But I feel like this is a good one. And I think if I had to rate it, I'd probably rate it 4 out of 5.
Definitely a good rating there. So, Dad, what's your thoughts on this one?
Okay, first I'm going to go into this a little different than you guys. When I saw this in theater, you got to remember now, well, you know all about the directors now, like I said before. When I saw this movie in the theater years ago, I didn't know who Corey Feldman was. I didn't know who Crispin Glover was. I didn't know. I went in blind, right? I just paid my money. Yeah. Friday the 13th, Part 4 contract. So I went in blind. So I'm reading this movie, the acting wise, on as I seen it in that movie, not what he did before or after. The Feldman did a real good job, I think, for a young star at that time. His sister, I liked her in the end of the movie better than I did at the beginning. The other people in it, they did what they typically do. They're young teenagers. They go in, they have fun, they get killed. Crispin Glover was all right for what he did. His crazy little dance. The two twins were cute. The other guy just went in and had a shower with his girlfriend and got killed. So
Peter Barton.
So he's not overly impressive in this movie. Jason, I really found this one more disturbing and depressing. I mean, I don't know if he killed her mother or not. I can't remember that. But some of the kills that I liked was the one in the raft. The one in the raft. And the one where he threw the girl out through the window. I thought that was cool. Visually, right? He grabbed her and threw her through the window.
The girl in the raft also was an American Ninja.
Yeah.
And Jason was a lot crueler in this one, no doubt about it. It's nothing like Jason we saw in the last one. So I don't know. I was a little disturbed, but the ending is disturbing. You think about Tommy Jarvis, the way he looked. Then at the end of it, when he gave you that creepy look, and I found that a little bothersome to me. The movie was good. It was good because it was so different than the last one. But I was entertained more with the last one. I watched the last one more than I watched this one. I'm more entertained. I go away feeling good with the last one. I don't go away feeling good with this one. But I'll still give it a 4 because of Feldman's acting. It definitely, brought it to a higher level. And the plot I liked the plot, and the characters were funny. Even the teddy bear was funny, But
Teddy.
But I'd give this one a 4. The same things to give the other.
Definitely
a quality 4.
Yeah. To take it like in the context of when it was done, the guy that played Teddy was Lawrence Munison, was probably the most famous actor at that point in this that had come into the series, because he had done The Last American Virgin, which was a popular film, and was a remake of the Israeli film Lemon Popsicle. But it had been definitely a very popular film, and Lawrence Munison is, I hope I pronounced his last name right, was a bit kind of on the rise at that point. So he was probably a bit more known than people like Crispin Glover and even Corey Feldman would go on to become famous the next year. I love the Moore twins in this. They would have been on, as Dad would probably know this, they're on Days of Our Lives. But they were kind of the Doublemint girls too. So like people would have probably known them for that as well. We get a really good cast here overall. I think that some of the best, most engaging lines are in this film. And one of the worst lines is in this film of the entire franchise. I'll go into both of them. One, computer says you're a dead fuck, is one of the best parts of this entire film. I love that like running gag. What is horrible is there's a sequence where Joseph Zito had heard about this true crime where they heard the person, didn't see the person being killed, but people could hear the person being murdered, and it was like a horrible, like bone chilling thing, right? So you think, oh, that sounds like really, really creepy. And on paper, I'm sure it did. And maybe from a different actor's delivery, it would. But the guy playing Rob, no, he's killing me. Oh no, he's killing me. Is hilarious. It is unintentionally hilarious, but it is hilarious nonetheless. Kimberly Beck is probably one of the best looking final girls that we're going to get. She plays Trish. However, it is the final boy, Tommy Jarvis, that steals the scenes in this one. We get to see some of Tom Savini's own masks and stuff in Tommy Jarvis's room near the
Which is a
beginning
cool aspect
of the film. I was a massive Zaxxon fan back then, by the way, guys. So when we see Tommy Jarvis playing Zaxxon, that was a game I used to play as a kid. I had an Atari, and my cousin Roger had a Genesis, and I would go to his place to in North Point to play Zaxxon because it was like a Zaxxon mouse kind of double disc thing. So if you're a game fan, that's just a little aside right there. I think that overall we have a great cast with this one here. I'm kind of missing the Crazy Ralph like substitute part here, but I think this is for me. I'm kind of in the opposite with you guys. So here's the thing: I found this one more entertaining than part 3. I love part 3. I think it's a good film, but this one it checks all those boxes that I want for not just a Friday the 13th film, but for a slasher film. Does it have really good inventive kills? Yes, it does. Is there a good reveal for Jason at the end of the film? Yes, there is. Is it the best Jason makeup until part 7? Oh, yes, very much so. Also, is this like are we getting some quality acting in this? Is there the prerequisite boobage? Yes, there is, and very good, very nice ones too. So for me, this one and Peter Barton, would go on, of course, Bold and Beautiful, and of course, the Matthew Starr TV series that was shortly lived. But for this film itself, just on its own, I just find this is one of the ones I go back to most of the time, and I'll tell you why right now. It's because it literally does what Deep Red did. It looks at all the things that came before it, makes the best of all the things that came before it, takes all the best parts of it, puts it together in this nice little blend, and plays all the hits, but does it in a way with that they've got a solid cast, a solid a solid story all the way through, and we get an ending. But at the same time that he gives an ending, we get, unfortunately, they wouldn't follow up the way that I want them to, the hint of the ability of something very, very new that could be made with this. And we can't go on because we're not doing timelines here. We're going film by film. And for me, Friday 13th Part 4 checks all the boxes. It's got some of the best actors, some of the best score. It's the last time we'll see Tom Savini on it, which is a damn shame because he will be missed in some of the latter sequels. Definitely when we look at some of the kill aspects of it. And we've got just an incredibly eclectic cast that it's like when you get like these people like kind of just before they hit the zenith of stardom, right? And you just whoever the casting director was for part, like bravo. What an amazing job.
It was
so for me, it's a 4.5 out of 5.
I know that.
It's definitely a 4.5 out of 5. Like for this one, it's nearly a 5. And because I do think, and I kind of do. Part of me wants to put it on a 5 because I do think that like part 2 has always been my favorite of the early franchise. But as I'm rewatching these, because I was watching these last night, I was watching it too much because I edited out the first poster. Um, but I was like, this is way better than I remember it being. Like, this is way more entertaining than I remember this film being.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'll go back to films and I'll be like, and I'll you know how it is. Sometimes you watch the movie a few times and you know the beats, right? So you're going to get a sandwich, you're going to get a drink, you come back, I didn't miss anything. I know what happened. I was like, okay, I'm going to go get a drink. And then then I'll be watching. I'm like, no, there's the scene coming up with the door, with in the pool, the skinny dipping sequence, or there's a scene with the window. Sadly, here's the thing, Malcolm. They shot the scenes for him looking at the window separately from the actual scenes
Oh,
because he was a kid.
yeah.
Same thing.
That was such a great scene.
Yeah, so basically, that's how good of an actor Corey Feldman was at this point, by the way. Because now we've got Corey Feldman, and he's reacting to nothing. And it is so realistic.
So like a normal kid then.
Yeah, like a super normal kid. Teddy White hated, by the way, the guy that played Jason thought that Corey Feldman was a big was a little jerk. And so there's a sequence in the movie where Jason jumps through, right, and grabs Tommy. So if you remember that scene, so Teddy White specifically did it so that Corey Feldman would not know when he was doing that, and to scare Corey Feldman even more because he wanted to. Also, a good thing to remember here, guys, is when Corey Feldman was doing those sequences, that end sequence of that film, he was sick. He had a high temperature. He had a high fever. So not only is he like acting his ass off, he's acting his ass off with a bad cold.
Oh.
So for me, that's a 5. I'm going to give it a 5 because I don't think without spoiling too much away, it's very rarely going to get. There will be times when it'll get up to this or close to this again, but it's very rarely going to get to this quality again as we go through the franchise. For me, this is a solid 5.
It doesn't reach this quality again until number 8.
Again, as a number 8. But with that being said, I want to thank you guys so
I don't
much.
know if it reaches this quality again at any time, Malcolm.
Well, we get to that.
There's
Actually,
one
we'll get
even
that in the next.
worse. There's one even worse than the one that's coming out. There's the worst one. There's down the road. My opinion. I thought I don't go into it now because I still be going, but I had one picked out as the worst, but I've changed it to another one now. Another one further down the line.
I kind of wonder if we both had all three of us had the
that's the
same one
worst.
for the worst, but there's one there that I'm pretty sure, like at least I think, is going to be like the worst in the whole franchise. With that being said, guys,
Involves
thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks, Dad. Thanks, Malcolm. We'll be back here tomorrow, looking at parts 5 and 6.
God, I haven't got to watch them, have I?
Because here's the thing, like we went from creating an icon because this like or hate the mask, it made Jason a recognizable character for all eternity. An icon was born. But in parts 5 and 6, we have to honestly ask the question: Jason lives, or does he?
Excuse me, Aaron. Can I get somebody else to watch them for me?
No, you can't. You are in. That's it.
Oh,
Okay.
God.
With that being said, I want to thank everybody for coming in today, and we'll see you tomorrow to look at parts 5 and 6. Apparently, my dad's favorites in the entire franchise.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.